What you're going to be able to see of the stone quarry that was here is just ahead of us. There's an opening in the trees where we can see in for 50 feet or so. Right at the center of the open area, there's a stack of large rectangular blocks of stone. Each of those blocks is roughly 3 by 4 by about 8 feet. That's the general size they cut the stone to ship from the quarry. And when this quarry shut down, there's like a big pile of these stone blocks that are behind. The quarry was a lot larger than just the little open spot we can see right now. Just to the right of the open area, the quarry continued in for a couple hundred feet. Well, that part has obviously become overgrown. The only reason we can see those stone blocks is the Park Service comes out here every couple of years and they cut down the brush in front of them. This particular quarry was owned and operated by Frederick Prentice. Originally, he was a businessman from Toledo. He spent the latter part of his life in northern Wisconsin. He got married for the last time fairly late in his life. He was in his 70s. As a surprise wedding gift for his third wife, he built a beautiful 3-story mansion. Used to be just in from the point we're passing. 3 stories with an observation tower, all but covered in cedar shingles. Eventually it came to be known as the Cedar Bark Lodge. Well, after his wedding, Mr. Prentice brought his new wife out and surprised her with the place. She was surprised, but not very pleasantly. Although Mr. Prentice was in his 70s, his third wife was a 19-year-old socialite from New York. He didn't have much of an appreciation for the rustic charm of Hermit Island. Refused to spend even a single night out here. She was just not going to live in the middle of nowhere. She left. Mr. Prentice left with her, and history is kind of forgotten what happened to the two of them. But that Cedar Bark Lodge stood for about 40 years. It had been left for use by friends and family of the Prentices. In the 1930s, it was kind of run down. It was intentionally burned just to get rid of it. There's a bald eagle headed toward us, just above the top of the trees. Hope he keeps coming. Yeah, there he is. Right along here you can see some of the variation in the stone. Now the stone itself that underlies these islands, the vast majority of it is kind of a reddish-brown color. Along here though you see a few very thin layers that are sort of a creamy yellow. There's also a lot of discoloration here on the surface of the stone. And most of the surface discoloration is lichen. Lichen is a mix of an algae and a fungus that grow together. Lots of different varieties of it. Along here you'll see some with orange, and there's greens and grays and blues. These are all the different types of lichen. I gotten some rot in them, the original logs, so those were replaced just in the last few weeks. The tent here is what the park guys are using for some shelter while they are working out here. Well, there's a couple of the park maintenance guys out here right now. Buildings right in the center of the group, there's 3 of them, kind of just to the left of the tent. Those were used mostly for storage, although occasionally these would have been used as additional bunkhouses. They sometimes had as many as about 30 men out here. That was kind of rare. Generally only during a few weeks in November for the herring season. More commonly, through most of the year they were fishing for lake trout and whitefish, and during those times they only had at most half a dozen. The fishermen could have stayed out here throughout the summer. Most of these camps were only used during the summer, although some of them were used year-round. In the winter, we commonly get a foot or 2 of ice here between islands. And once the ice was thick enough, the fishermen would, and still do, come out, and they cut holes through the ice and keep fishing. Brings us to the last building here, the one